Today we will start with the second chapter of political science, Federalism. In the previous chapter, we studied about the power sharing of two different countries, Belgium and Sri Lanka. In Belgium, we saw that the three different language-based communities were there, and ultimately the government decided to share power among those communities. And the resentment which was done, that problem was solved. So the government, which is ready to share the power and to divide the power among its various groups of the country, is called as an federal form of government. Whereas in Sri Lanka, the government which was there, that was named as an majoritarianism government. Sinhalas were having the power and they didn't want to share their power with the Tamil communities. So there, the form of government which was present, that was referred as an unitary government. So in this chapter, we will study some more details about federalism. Federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between a central authority and the various constituent units of the country. The other explanation of the federalism, you can say that usually a federalism has two levels of government. One is the government for the ethnic country, that is usually responsible for a few subjects of common national interest, and the other are governments at the level or of the provinces or states that look of much of the day or day-to-day administration of their state. Both these levels of the government enjoy their powers independent of each other. Now children, let us see about the differences between federal and unitary government. The nature of federal form of government is, under the federal system, there are two levels of government, one at the central level and the other at the state level. Both levels have their areas of jurisdiction. Whereas in unitary form of government, that the unitary form of government, either there is only one level of government or the subunits are subordinate to the central government. That means the other units cannot work or cannot function independently. In federal system, a state government has powers of its own for which it is not answerable to the central government. Whereas on the other hand, in unitary system, the state government does not have powers of its own. The federal form of government, central government cannot order the state government to do something. Whereas under the unitary form of government, the central government can pass an order to the local government. In most of the federations, there is dual citizenship, one of the country and one of state, like the country USA, but this does not exist in India, because India we have only the one citizenship. Unlike a federal system, unitary system has a single citizenship. So in India, the two different concepts are there, that the powers are shared with the other forms of government, but the citizenship is a single citizenship. Now let us see some of the features of federalism. Children, this question often comes in the exam. So there are 7 features given, that there are 2 or more levels of government in federalism. Different tiers of the government govern the same citizen, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation, and administration. The jurisdiction of the respective levels or tiers of government are specified in the Constitution. In the Constitution, the various powers of different levels of the government are clearly present. So the existence and authority of each tier of government is constitutionally guaranteed. The fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government, and such changes require the consent of both the levels of the government. Here, both the level of government means the central as well as the state government. So if any changes are required, ultimately the central government cannot dominate any changes in the constitution. It has to take the consent of state governments also. Courts have the power to interpret the constitution and the powers of the different levels of the government, and the high courts acts as an empire for all the rest of the courts. And if disputes arise between the different levels of the government in exercise of their respective powers, sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure its financial autonomy. Because if the government is running, ultimately it requires economy also to govern the country. So for the economy, the source of revenue is the main source of the economy of any country. So ultimately the revenue collection, it has been divided into various categories, that for the central level it is different and for the state level it is different. So both the levels of the government are having the different source of revenues so that they can maintain their financial autonomy also. The federal system thus has dual objectives. Dual means two objectives: to safeguard and promote unity of the country, and while at the same time to accommodate regional diversity also. Now let's move to the next topic of the chapter, that is types of federalism. Here we will see the two types of federalism: coming together federalism and holding together federalism. To understand these two, you can just make it in a simple way: coming together federalism. That means the areas which come on their own and combine, they come together on their own. So coming together federalism involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit. And in coming together, units try to increase their security by pooling sovereignty and retaining identity. In this category of federations, all the constituent units usually have equal power and are strong vis-a-vis the federal government. And the example of the coming together federations are like USA, Switzerland, Australia, and etc. These are the coming together federation. Here the various countries, they have come together to form a one big country, and they all have the equal power. They are not subordinate of any other. Such type of unit is called as an coming together federation. Now holding together federation. Holding together federation means where other way in which the federation can be formed is holding together. In this system, the large power or country decides to divide its power between the constituent states and national government. Here the country is large, the country is one, but it divides its power among its smaller units to govern properly, like we have in India. But in holding together, there is absence of pooling sovereignty and retaining identity. In fact, in this federation, the central government subordinates over the constituent units. We say that our state government and the other level of government are independent, but then too, overall, the final decisions are to be taken by the central government if any dispute occurs. Although they all function independently, but if any requirement is there, then the final decision will be of central government. So directly or indirectly, it is the final conclusion taken by the central only, because it has been splitted by the central itself. Whereas in this category, the central government tends to be more powerful vis-a-vis the states. Sometimes constituent units of the federation have unequal power also. Due to that, what happened? Some areas are having some special powers and some areas are lacking with some of the powers. We will study in detail in the further topic. An example of such type of holding together federation are like India, Spain, Belgium, and etc. Next topic comes what makes India a federal country. This topic we will explain with the help of 6 different headings. The first is 3-tier system, second 3-list, third is not equal power to all constituent units, fourth is consent of both the level of government, fifth is independent judiciary, and sixth point will be separate source of income. Now let us describe these 6 headings to prove that these concepts make India a federal country. 3-tier system. Union government, state government, and local self-government are present here. So, the Constituent originally provided for a 2-tier system of government, the union government or what we call as an central government, representing the Union of India and the state government. Later, a 3rd tier of federalism was added in the form of panchayats and municipality, which is also called as an local self-government. The Constitution clearly provides a 3-fold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state government as well as in the local self-government. Our second heading comes 3-list. Union list, state list, concurrent list, and the 4th list which is presented, that is the residuary power. Union list includes the subjects of the national importances such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communication, and currency. They are included in this list because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. And the union government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the union list. And approx the number of subjects in the union list are 97. Second comes state list. State list contains subjects of the state and local importance such as police, trade, commerce, agriculture, and irrigation. The state government alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the state list. And this state list has the subjects, approx 66 subjects. The third list comes the concurrent list. It includes subject of the common interest to both the union government as well as the state government, such as education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, and succession. Both the union as well as the state governments can make laws on the subjects mentioned in this list. If their laws conflict with each other, the law made by the union government will prevail. And the concurrent list has approx 47 subjects. The 4th list is the residuary power. What about this residuary power? Subjects like the computer software that came up after the constitution was made. So according to our constitution, the union government has the power to legislate on these residuary subjects. Besides that, the next topic with the help of which we can say that what makes India a federal country, that is the not equal powers to all the constituent units. India is a type of federalism where constituent units have different sets of rights and obligations which are not necessarily equal. It refers particularly to some constituent units having more powers than other constituent units, and this may be done constitutionally or through ordinary laws. Like we can say that some states are having some special powers. Before the removal of the 370 article, Jammu Kashmir was also having the special power, but now as it has become the union territory, so right now we can say that the eastern states of India are having the special powers. If you want to write the example for this, the states, the areas which are having the special powers, you can write about the eastern states. On the other hand, there are some units of the Indian Union which enjoy very little power, and these are the areas which are too small to become an independent state but could not be merged with any of the existing states. Example are like Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, Delhi. These are the various union territories, and these union territories do not have the power of the state, and the central government has the special power in running these areas. So these union territories are controlled by whom? By the central government. Our next concept comes consent of both the level of government. This sharing of power between the union government and the state government is basic to the structure of the constitution. It is not easy to make changes to this power sharing arrangement. The parliament cannot on its own change this arrangement. Any change to it has to be first passed by both the houses of parliament with at least two-thirds majority, and then it has to be ratified by the legislatures of at least half of the total states. So clearly it says that if any amendment has to be done in the constitution, then ultimately the sanction or the consent of both the level here means central as well as the state level government consent is required. Next is independent judiciary. As India is having an independent judiciary, thus this point makes India a federal country. Now how the independent judiciary? The judiciary of India is an independent body. It is separate from legislative and executive bodies of the Indian government. As you have studied, there are three organs of the Indian government, that is legislative, executive and judiciary. They are interdependent as well as they are independent also. So the legislative and the executive, that is the central and the state government, cannot interfere in the work of judiciary. The courts are not under the government and don't act on their behalf. And even though judges in the High Court as well as the Supreme Court are appointed with very little interference from the branches of the government, and even though it is very difficult to remove a judge from his or her post. There are separate sources of income also. The union and the state government have the power to raise resources by levying taxes. Taxes are the main source of earning in order to carry on the government and the responsibilities assigned to each of them. So the various levels of the government are having their different source of earning also. Like the central government is taking the revenue in the form of income tax, corporation tax, central GST, customs and so on. State government collects the revenues from the various bodies like the state GST, tax on electricity, excise duty on alcohol, stamp duties and etc. In the local bodies, they have the separate source of earning, like they take the revenues or they collect the revenues from the tax on land and buildings, vehicle tax, tolls, entertainment tax and etc.